subjective that it's gonna mean nothing.
I know.
I just don't see how this could possibly work. It doesn't mean anything when you're doing subjective stuff. And then on safety, real quick, I fought. My son is going into middle school. I fought back and forth about taking him out completely because my neighbor took their daughter out last year and homeschooled her. I've been really nervous about sending him there because I've heard horrible things about good things and bad things. Let me be honest. But so I am also concerned about this, and if things don't go well at the beginning, I might be throwing them out also. So as a citizen, that is very important.
Well, and citizens need to speak up. I mean, I'm only one voice. I'm one voice on this board, and
I'm trying to,
you know,
at meetings.
yeah.
Robert is next, and then Sabrina.
Vicki and the collective here. I guess I'm under a misunderstanding that I always thought that when we have elected officials, elected bodies like the school board, city council, that they are the policy makers and they set the policy, not the superintendent. I didn't elect the superintendent. I'm going to hold all 11 members of these abhorrent decisions that they have been making recently, and I'm going to do that in November. I just find it absolutely unacceptable that our substandard standards are applicable to students who may try to go on to one of our 4 military academies and get behind the stick of an F-18, or go to medical school and begin to slice somebody's abdomen open when they didn't excel. I don't want anybody touching me or protecting my country with the multi-billion dollars of equipment that they have to run and operate without being the top, the very top of their class. And anybody who takes that away is totally for socialism, and it's mind-boggling that we have right now 9 members of the Virginia Beach School Board that have acquiesced to the superintendent's lack of standards, and that's what it is. And I would love to challenge each one of them to a public debate. But I'll do that November 6th when I go into the voting booth.
Did you have a question, Robert?
Oh, yeah. How, and you're an incumbent, but I pretty much, how did this come about? That first of all, the superintendent sits in the middle of the dais, he's not elected. How did we allow this to occur?
Allow which?
All of these substandard initiatives that he supposedly has put out with the concurrence of the school
Well,
board.
I will say the grading issue started before Dr. Spence was here, but I have conversed with him multiple times on this, and he supports it obviously because it's continued. And I mean, the school board oversees what the superintendent does. So if the superintendent is doing something, the school board approves of it, or at least 6 or more of them do. So that's how you get to where we are.
Sabrina, and then we're going to end the question. If you have other questions, I know that Vicki would be happy to answer those, or you can email either one. And then we will have the 1 minute for all candidates. We'll start with school board, and then we'll go to city council. And Sabrina, you have a question?
Yes, I wanted to go back to the discipline issues. I've heard that several times, that discipline seems to be getting out of hand in the classroom. And I've been following the Student Discipline Task Force, and I'm wondering if their recommendations had any impact on the way teachers are now handling discipline in the classroom. Is that, I know there are certain tiers that they're supposed to follow.
That's a good question. So one of the biggest things that came out of the Student Discipline Task Force was PBIS, positive behavioral interventions and supports. And I'm a psychology major. I understand the importance of positive behavioral reinforcement. I think that's very important as a parent. It's important to reward good behavior. I completely agree with that, but not removing the consequences that come along with bad behavior. And what I am seeing is that the consequence part has been removed. and we're not giving those consequences. Students need boundaries. We all need boundaries. But kids especially need boundaries. And when they go outside of that boundary and they're not given a consequence for going outside of that boundary, what are they going to do? They're going to go farther outside of that boundary. And I see that that is what's happening here. And the PBIS was one of the biggest things that came out of that discipline task force.
I'd just like to comment on that. You heard me talk about when I grew up in high school, we were bound, and you didn't went outside, you were kicked out of school, or was kept at, and I don't know whether we're doing that anymore. I don't know whether there are any consequences for that behavior. And if it's not, that's great.
I one time suggested to a vice principal that everybody get a little snack on the rear end as they go into school, and if they behave, they can get one when they're not.
Okay, we're going to end questions for this, and then Dave's handing over for the 1 minute for it. And I'd like to thank Mrs. Eric. We do film this, and it gets put up. Sometimes it takes a little while because for some reason it's a little glitches. So if there was something that you missed or you thought you missed, you can view it on YouTube. It will be up under VBTA in this date. And in addition to that, you can also email and talk with Mrs. Manning if you have any other questions.
Would the candidates for school board please come up? And we'll start ladies first. Oh, I have a stopwatch. You're going to have to race around the room. And then you can introduce yourself and start the stopwatch. 1 minute. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mary Watson Wales, and I am running for school board. And I promise you that if you elect me to school board, I want to represent you, and I want to make sure that your voice is being heard. I taught for 30 years, and I can tell you firsthand how watered down our standards academically. And we need to raise that bar, and then we're going to watch our students grab that bar, and we're going to see them succeed. But we have to have a high expectation for them. We also have to have high expectations for them as far as their behavior goes. And we need to crack down on the kids who are stepping outside of the boundaries and reel them in. I think one kind of training that would be imperative in our school is teaching young teachers particularly how to de-escalate situations and teaching them social cues, because we can prevent a lot of these problems by knowing how to handle them in the classroom. But if they step outside the boundaries beyond that, we do need our administration to step up and to support our teachers. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Laura Hughes. I'm running for an at-large seat on the school board. And I also believe that all elected officials work for the citizens. We are your employees if you elect us. And I believe that if I'm elected on the school board, we need to ensure school safety, because none of the rest matters if our students and faculty are not safe. We need to make sure that we have high academic standards. One of the things that will go a long way to ensuring that safety and high academic standards is fair and consistent disciplinary standards. And the last issue that those fair and consistent disciplinary standards will also ensure is teacher morale. We are losing good teachers because they're frustrated, and the teachers that I have spoken to, they're not complaining about pay, they're complaining about work conditions. And the biggest issue that is contributing to those poor work conditions is the poor disciplinary standards in our schools. And I hope to have your vote November 6th. Thank you.
All day, I'm a retired Virginia Beach police officer. I'm running for Princess Anne District, and I do concur with Mary and Laura about the problems that we have in the school system. When it comes to discipline, when it comes to school safety, which I'm an advocate for better safety at those elementary levels, middle school and high schools. I want to piggyback on what Vicki said about some bullying and some discipline problems. Over the number of years that I've substituted as a teacher for the past 10 years after I retired from the police department, I have talked to countless teachers, said that discipline is out of control. Case in point, I was at a middle school just this year. I witnessed a student go up to another student, take this food. The student just stood there and looked at him. I could tell the student they took the food from was very timid. So I observed this kid. Then he came back the second time and took his eyeglasses off of him. Now I really started getting upset. So as a retired police officer, hey, that's part of my job. I walked up. I said, young man, can I talk to you? He said, sure. He walked over, and I was trying to talk to him, trying to do the PBIS, because a lot of people know it's not even on my website. I was at Norfolk Juvenile Detention Center youth counselor, so I knew a little bit about the PBIS too. This kid he didn't want to hear it. He walked away from me, and the assistant principal said, I said, what are you going to do with this child? He says, I'll give you lunch detention. So please vote for me, paulding.org, and I'm also going to
Good afternoon, I'm Stephen Johnston. I'm also running at large for the school board. Just to remind you, you do get to vote for 2, so please go all the way down the ballot, struggle through it. The drop-off this year, they're predicting is just going to be Senate, Congress, and boom, nobody else. So please work your way down the ballot, vote for me, Stephen Johnston. What I'm running on this year is school classroom safety. Not just school safety, but classroom safety. Because the teachers don't feel safe in the classroom, and the students aren't safe in the classroom. I've got several points on that on my Facebook page on how I intend to do that. The other thing we need to do is give our teachers assistants and our other education support employees a raise. And everybody knows 2 years ago I campaigned on giving our bus drivers a decent raise. We got into it, revised how they're getting paid. We got them a little bit more money and they were happy. This year we need to start concentrating on the other people within the school. They're part of the education team. We need to pay our whole team, not just the superstar teachers or the superstar quarterback. Just like the Dallas Cowboys, they paid Tony Romo all that money, didn't spend it around anybody else, and they have 0 Super Bowls to show for it. We want to pay everybody. The third thing I want to do is look at the out-of-zone system.
All right, can we have the candidates for city council come up, please?
Dang, like the wrong show.
Smile. And we will also start ladies first, please. So 1 minute, and members, 1 second, and you reset. You're ready when you're ready.
So Brittany Luton, I am running for city council in the Centerville district. However, if you don't live in Centerville, you can still vote for me. I am a candidate who supports our budget for education. Education is a part of my platform, and I'm supporting our budget to make sure our students have equal resources, making sure our students are safe, and making sure our teachers have competitive salaries. But I'm also a candidate who's going to work alongside with our school board to make sure that we have open dialogue, that we're coming together and working through issues. You'll have a partner with me on the city council. On November 6th, vote for me, Sabrina Wooten, Centerville District. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is kind of familiar. My name is Eric Gray. I'm running for the Centerville District for City Council. It's great. Thanks, Dave, for having us out in Molina. I'm concerned about flooding. That's a huge issue. We have so much money to have studies, we can't even fix our flooding issue. That's one issue. The second thing with the school is really funny because when I went to the chamber the other day, they asked me a very poignant question. They said, would you or would you not vote to raise taxes if the school boards asked for it? And I said unequivocally, no. We do not have we don't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. So therefore, if you really want to improve our schools, let's send some good people to the school board so they won't keep asking to raise your taxes. I also want to stick to the charter. We need to stick to the charter. Anything over $10 million needs to go to referendum. We don't need to keep running things through the Development Authority. We need to make sure that we stick and have fair and open and transparent government. John Moss and Jessica Abbott, they need help. They need help. And this November, let's give them some help. Let me be the Bill Steph to the John Moss back in the day. Thank you so much.
Good morning, my name is Brad Martin. I am your candidate for the Bayside District at the City Council elections. I don't have to tell this crowd how consequential this election season is. I don't have to tell this crowd that everybody in the city votes for everybody on school board and city council. As we're talking about school board and spending, I think something that gets ignored to our detriment is the facilities that we have, and we need to be spending money on facilities, and that's where my experience as a civil engineer comes into play. We are collecting a lot of money in CIP revenues, and what we need to do is spend those monies on facility rehabilitation and reconstruction. My parents met in homeroom at Princess Anne High School. It was the same homeroom in the same Princess Anne High School that sits there today. We've got 60 and 70-year-old buildings that need to be replaced, and we need to be on a faster schedule. At the same time, Not every school has to be a $103 million Callum High School. So we need to look at those costs and look at what kind of money is going to that construction. My name is Brad Martin. I'm excited about working on City Council and with the school board and for the citizens of Virginia Beach, Bayside District, and City Council. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Tim Worst. I have, ma'am, it is, so it's going to keep you straight. This is taking up my time. No. My name is Tim Worst. Thank you for allowing me to speak for this minute. I have spoken to almost all of you. It's nice to see you again. So I'm going to go quickly through these. I always talk about flooding. I like Moss's plan about starting now, and it only takes 5 years. That's what we need to do, not 10 or 15. I'm a huge fan of public safety, and I want to make sure we fix pay compression for police, fire, EMS, etc., all the way through. Infrastructure, those new pipes, those new buildings, fixing the roads, that's a primary thing we need to do. And businesses, being open for everybody and not select few on the special interest. Things that you may not know, and I wanted to tell you because I have this opportunity, I love bass fishing. I used to do a golf tournament for 12 years. It was called the Worst Golf Tournament. We raised money for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, which is near and dear to me. We raised money for the Alzheimer's Association, which is near and dear to me because of my father. My parents actually used to live here for a little bit. I coached high school girls basketball years ago. I've coached girls fast pitch softball for 9 years now, and my time is up. Thank you very much.
I'm going to say I'm not going to introduce myself. Look, since 2002, I've talked about stormwater. I was the first person around talking about stormwater, where the money was going. Pay compression for police officers. 2002, once again, we're 80 police officers short in 2002, and we're still 80 police officers short. Help me out here. What's going on? Thank you. My wife's been a teacher for 37 years. She comes home and tells me what you've been telling me about. I am so glad you're talking about it. Because something that's important here. For one person that will talk about it, 50 won't. They are bullying our teachers, and it needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. Hats off to you, and I'll be there to fight for you with that. And you know my passion. We can go to war on this one and win this one for sure. It's not easy. Let me tell you something, guys. Forget all that. I'm wrong about everything I've said. Because if corruption doesn't matter, no election will ever matter. You can forget about everything. And right now, we got to fix some serious problems in the city. Once again in the paper, another corruption story. And a candidate doesn't belong in a race. I called it out. And you know what they did? The response was after I called it out, they sent a vicious attack against me and Turbo. Lying, called me everything under the book. They're 100% lies. This has got to stop. They're bullying you from voting for me so I can fix the problems. If you want to fix the problems and a fixer, vote RK. By the way, fundraiser Tuesday, South Beach, food, drinks, entertainment, 6 to 8:30. Vote RK. Thank you.
I had a quick announcement too, and there's flyers outside, so this is Labor Day weekend if you're interested. Carolyn Weems has started an organization, Halo. We know that opioid addiction is a real problem throughout the country, and we're not spared from that problem here in Virginia Beach as well. So please grab a flyer on your way out and sign up, walk or run. And
It's on the website.
it's on Halo. Yeah, thank you, Teresa. That's a good point. But yeah, if you're interested in that, you can go to the website and do that. Yeah, you are. I know we'll see you out there.
Diane has announced it before that, in September and October, we haven't finalized which month is which. We will be having a mayoral forum, and we will be having a school board forum. So again, the second Saturday of the month here will be a forum, and it's, we'll let you know through email and Facebook which one will go first in September and which will be in October. But it will be school board forum and a mayoral forum. We're not doing the city council forum only because that was handled, I think, quite adequately at the Tea Party Library, and there are a number of others that are going on throughout the city. So rather than replicate that, we're focusing
So
on
candidates look for a questionnaire.
Yes.
And you think it'll be related to tax and spending? We guessed right. I don't think title yet.
Okay, on the chair of the Virginia Beach Tea Party, we're going to have the Senate bill candidates at our next meeting, September 5th. We couldn't include them in our last city